Hello everybody and welcome back to Screen Stars and welcome to my review for Season 4 of Supernatural. Now this series was first aired in 2008 and obviously follows directly on from Season 3. Now if you remember in Season 3, which I have reviewed on the channel as well as Seasons 1 and 2, Dean was sent to hell at the end of Season 3. So this season follows directly on from that. As with the last seasons, I will review each episode individually, give you a brief description of the episode and give you my score for each episode, and then right at the end I will give you my score overall for the season. So I hope you enjoy my review. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Now the first episode was called Lazarus Rising, and this is the episode where Dean it rises from hell. Initially he has no clue whatsoever as to how he has risen from hell. Catches up with Bobby and Sam. Obviously Sam has been secretly cohorting with Ruby over these last few months while Dean has disappeared, and this episode introduces us to one of the most important characters in the Supernatural series, and that is Castiel, who we see at the end. Episode 2, Are You There God? It's Me, Dean Winchester. Another pretty decent episode. I've given this an 8 out of 10. In this episode we find out about the 66 seals, and the first seal that is attempted to be broken here is the spirits that come back to haunt Bobby, Sam and Dean are of people who they have wronged in the past. So Bobby's haunted by 2 girls, Sam by Meg and Dean by that FBI agent from previous seasons. Episode 3, one of the strongest episodes in the season. It was called In the Beginning. Castiel sends Dean back in time so that he can meet a young Mary Winchester, a young John Winchester, and he meets their parents, Mary's parents, and this is all about the yellow-eyed demon and how he got into the life of Mary Winchester, and it also focuses quite heavily on the fact that Mary Winchester was in fact a hunter when she was younger, which Sam and Dean didn't know. A very, very strong episode, one of the best in the series, certainly. Episode 4, Metamorphosis. I really quite enjoyed this episode. I've given it an 8 out of 10. When I watched this with my wife, she really enjoyed the effects in this one, and this is about a seemingly normal guy who doesn't realise that he has in his blood, passed on to him by his father, a gene that essentially changes him into something else, some kind of monster that craves meat and killing, and Sam and Dean have to confront him and get him to face his demons, if you like. A pretty decent episode overall. Episode 5, Monster Movie. Another great episode, one that many of the fan base quite like as well, and this is set all in black and white, and it's got a very cheesy edge to it, this episode. It's a lot of fun, and it's essentially about a creature who is obsessed with like old-fashioned monster movies, and he changes himself to look like Dracula and the Mummy and werewolves and things like that, and Sam and Dean head off to like Oktoberfest to try and find out what is going on. It's quite a lot of fun, this episode, to be fair, and it's certainly one that lightens this season quite a bit because it's quite an intense season. Episode 6, arguably the best one in season 4. This episode, in my opinion, one of my favourites of all time, and certainly one of the best amongst the fan base. It's called Yellow Fever, and this focuses on Dean, who gets infected with like a ghostly disease that turns him into like a coward, and it's just fantastic. It's hilarious. Dean's comedy timing here, Jensen Ackles' comedy timing here is bang on, proves why he's such a great actor, and he can do comedy as well as drama very, very easily. A brilliant episode. Episode 7, It's the Great Pumpkin, Sam Winchester. A good episode. This is one that focuses quite heavily on Sam and his obsession now with this need for demon blood and things like that, and Sam and Dean go on the hunt for somebody who's trying to resurrect, like it's one of the 66 Seals again, who's trying to resurrect an age-old, I think it's a demon, rise him up, so that he can, when this guy rises up, all the zombies and things will rise up with him and cause chaos. Pretty decent episode, fairly strong episode, and one that is certainly quite enjoyable. Episode 8, Wishful Thinking, another fun episode, mainly, this one a lot of people remember mainly for the talking teddy bear, and this is one where Sam and Dean go to this town to investigate people whose wishes are all coming true. So you've got someone who's won the lottery, you've got a little girl who's got a talking teddy bear, and you've got this guy who is actually Sam Raimi's brother, who wished for this woman to fall in love with him, who's way out of his league. So a pretty decent fun episode overall, this one for sure. Episode 9, I Know What You Did Last Summer. This was a two-parter, and this focuses on a girl called Anna, who essentially is in a mental institute, breaks out, and she claims she can like hear the angels talking and things like that. And it actually turns out Sam and Dean end up saving her, catching up with her and helping her, and it actually turns out she's a fallen angel, which is why she can tune into these angels so well. And Sam and Dean have got to protect her from not only demons that are chasing her, but also angels who are after her as well, because fallen angels are usually ones that have fallen out of favour with God. And the second part of this episode, Heaven and Hell, focused on Sam and Dean trying to get Anna to get her grace back, and also Dean has to confront Alistair, who was the demon who personally tortured Dean in hell, and tortured him for what was the equivalent of like 40 years, and for 30 of those years Dean managed to hold out, but for the last 10 he openly, freely tortured people as well. So this was a very, very heavy episode. Episode 11, Family Remains. Most notable thing about this episode really is it starred Helen Slater, who you remember as Supergirl from the 1980s film, and this focused on Sam and Dean, who go to this family home out in the country to help this family, as they think initially it's a haunting, but it actually is something a little bit more grounded, and this family and Sam and Dean are put in direct danger from what is actually inside this house. A pretty decently made episode, certainly. Episode 12, Chris Angel is a douchebag. Another 8 out of 10 here. There's a pattern here for most of these episodes. All these episodes pretty much in this season were well made and well done, and this is another one. This focused on these 3 elderly magicians, and one of them is suddenly getting like a second wind, and all these really dangerous tricks he's pulling off. Nobody can believe it. He's getting really famous again, and Sam and Dean think there might be something a little bit more supernatural going on here. This one's fun for a lot of ways. It's quite comedic, but because of the veteran actors in here, it's really fantastically well delivered as well, the lines and the acting, so it's worth watching. Episode 13, After School Special, another strong episode. This was the one that you'll see a lot of clips of this on YouTube, with Dean being the PE teacher, getting the kids to play dodgeball, and it's essentially Sam and Dean going back to one of their old schools when they were kids, and it's one of these ones with flashbacks as well, where they're investigating a haunting that may have a connection to Sam and Dean when they were there as children, because John, their father, used to drop them off at schools periodically for a couple of weeks worth of lessons. Episode 14, Sex and Violence, another 8 out of 10, another solid episode, and this focused on a siren, and Sam and Dean investigate these men essentially who are killing the people closest to them, and they figure out through a little bit of research and investigations that it is a siren that is basically whispering to these men to do these things for the siren, and by the end of this episode the siren gets in both Sam and Dean's head and makes them confront each other. Episode 15, Death Takes a Holiday. A pretty strong episode again, 8.5 out of 10, and this focused on this town in America where seemingly nobody is dying, and that is because the Reapers have been kidnapped by the demons and Alistair, and they're going to kill a couple of Reapers in order to open another seal. Sam and Dean turn up and decide they're not going to have any of this, and by the end of the episode they're hoping that they can stop Alistair and the demons from doing their plan. Episode 16, On the Head of a Pin. Now, this was a good episode. It was an intense episode because the angels capture Alistair in the last episode, and in this episode they essentially ask Dean to torture him because he learned all these tricks from Alistair and he was in hell, and he tortured for him for 10 years and became very good at it. So they ask Dean to basically torture Alistair to get information that they need. Dean obviously doesn't want to go there, but he isn't really given a choice, so it's fun. It's an episode that's good for that reason. Episode 17, It's a Terrible Life. This is a pretty good episode. It's initially quite a confusing one. It certainly was for my wife when she watched it. And it starts off with Sam and Dean living normal lives, working for this finance company. Dean's like this really, management type guy. Sam's an IT guy, but as it turns out, they have been put there by the angels to show them what life would be like if they weren't hunting, and how they would always end up going back to hunting. One of the best ones of this season, the monster at the end of the book. This is the one where Sam and Dean find out that there is a series of books written by Chuck about their lives, this supernatural series of books, which absolutely staggers them initially, and then they seek out this Chuck and find out from Castiel that in actual fact Chuck is a prophet of the Lord, and the books that he's writing will in hundreds of years time be the scriptures basically of Sam and Dean. A really fun episode, this one. Episode 19, Jump the Shark. Quite an intense, emotional episode, this one. I gave this an 8.4 out of 10. And this is the episode where Sam and Dean discover that they have a long lost brother that they knew nothing about. When Dad was on his travels, he fathered another child. Dean initially is very, very untrusting, and they soon realise that it is actually the truth, but by the end of the episode there is definite heartbreak as they discover that their brother actually isn't. Excuse me. Episode 20, The Rapture. I've given this a 9 out of 10. Brilliant episode. This is where we learn about Jimmy Novak, which essentially is the meat suit for Castiel. He says right at the beginning of the season that this guy Jimmy Novak was a devout man and prayed for this, and in this episode we discover how that comes about and how Castiel takes over the body of this Jimmy Novak and the consequences of that to Jimmy and his family. A really fantastic episode, and a bit of a shocking ending too, I think. Episode 21, When the Levee Breaks. A good episode. This is basically where Bobby and Dean lock up Sam because his bloodlust and his need for this demon blood has taken him over now, and they decide to make him go cold turkey by locking him in Bobby's basement in his panic room. It doesn't necessarily go according to plan. He's released by Castiel, and he essentially goes on the hunt for Lilith because he believes it's his destiny to certainly kill her. And the final episode, episode 22, Lucifer Rising, another strong end to the season, and this focused on Sam, who has to kill Lilith. He feels it's his destiny. He's so powerful now from all the demon blood he's been drinking, and Dean is taken to this room by the angels and told that he has to stay there because he's going to be coming Michael's weapon, if you like. He's going to stop the apocalypse and stop Lucifer when he rises. But he doesn't want any of this, Dean. He doesn't want any part of it. He just wants to get to Sam, and then Castiel decides he's going to help him, but it's all in vain because it turns out that Lilith is the final seal, and once Sam kills her and her blood touches this place, Lucifer is rising, and there is nothing they can do about that. So there you go. That is my review for season 4 of Supernatural, one of the strongest seasons I think in the whole show. Some really top-notch episodes there, and I think the storyline going through it was really well written, and it kept you gripped throughout, and it led brilliantly into season 5. I think arguably many feel that's where the show peaked, at season 5, but I do think season 5 and beyond we got a number of strong seasons as well. So yeah, I'm just on with season 5 now. It'll be a couple of weeks before I get that watched, so I hope you enjoyed this review for season 4. Let me know in the comments what you think, and of course thank you very much for watching, everybody.